Hey, welcome everybody. I'm super excited that you are here. In the chat before we start, let me know who's here. Let me know if you're ready. If you got something to write with, you're ready to learn this week's presentation. I'm really excited about it. I know we teased it last week. We were supposed to do it, but that's my bad, totally on me. I'm going to give you guys more gifts at the end of this just because I dropped the ball, and I'll tell you what those gifts are here in the bit. But let me pull up the screen so that you can see what we are talking about. The big reveal. Yeah, so we are going to talk about how to land big guest. You see, I put that small. I made that in smaller case for a reason, because landing the big guest, that's one thing. You know, eventually you'll get there. If you start a podcast, you can get a big guest. It's so damn simple. I don't even have the words for it, but it is very simple, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And the biggest piece to that, I'm going to show you how to ask the questions that go deep, and not just the simple, so tell me about yourself and let's just talk about your book so that we could give you more book sales. You know how that feels like when you're being sold a product to, but they're disguising it as information, right? And it happens. You know, I definitely believe that people got to eat. You know, I got to eat too. I got an offer. If y'all want to work with me, there's a way to work with me too. And I'm going to tell you that. But, you know, podcast episodes, I really like it to be a certain kind of way. And that's in storytelling mode. It's not just because I like it to be that way. It's because that's the way that it's supposed to be, right? All the podcasts that are telling you a story, those are the podcasts that are actually making a difference. And if you don't believe me, just go and turn to your favorite podcast. Not right now, but when we're done with this, turn to your favorite podcast and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to show you how to land big guests and how to ask questions that go deep. And I'm not going to give you any hacks. I'm not going to give you any stupid scripts. I do have some scripts that if you're interested in that, I do have some scripts that you can use, but they're bare bones because I want you to be able to put your own information in there. But this is going to give you the clarity how to do that, right? So I really want y'all to go and tell anybody that is in your house right now, hey, for the next hour and so, I'm going to be talking to my buddy, Tony Taylor, and he's going to show me some really cool things. So I need the house to be as quiet as possible. And then I want you to go and get a blanket or whatever. I got my blanket here just in case it get cold, something to drink. I'll give you like 10 seconds. We're not going to start right now, but yeah, go and get that stuff. Get something to write with. This is going to just be super good. Silence your phones. I'm going to silence mine. Here, I got my stuff on Do Not Disturb. No matter what, nobody can disturb me. So that's good. And, you know, I want you to really think about this. Think about whether you have a podcast or you don't have a podcast. Think about how that would feel once you know for a fact that you'll be able to get big guests on your show, right? The best guest. The best guest is for you and your platform, and you'll actually be able to ask the questions that go deep. I mean, I've been there. I've interviewed freaking several hundred people at this point, and I'll tell you the worst thing is getting a big interview and not knowing what to ask. I've asked some pretty stupid questions. You know how to say there's no such thing as a dumb question. Yeah, the dumb question is the one that you could figure out on your own, things that you could do research on, right? These people, they're not going to want to come on your show if you're asking them the same doggone questions that everybody else ask them. That is not going to help you. You get no points for creativity for that. And I'm telling you, I actually seen an interview yesterday with, I think it was Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, where, you know, he gets tired of people asking him the same interviews. He handles it a little differently than I would, but instead of asking a question to this young lady that was asking him, what clothing did he have on. He just walked off, right? But the way that he handled it is bad. Good initiative, I get it, yeah, good, but bad judgment, 100%. But don't ask the same questions. If you want to get big guests on your show, they got to know that you're going to go deep, like so deep, like Diary of a CEO. That's why they're able to continue to get eyeballs on their show and continue to get good guests. So I'm not going to belabor that anymore. I tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Tony Taylor. I'm the host of Leaders Lead the Podcast. Right here it says we're a global top 3 podcast. That has since changed. We are now, last time I look, at the top 1.5%. I love that. That makes me so freaking happy. We've did some really cool partnerships with Comcast, did a partnership with ADP, partnership with the Chamber Foundation, Marine Corps Times, was featured in the Financial Times, did some stuff to where our brand was featured in the Department of Defense. So yeah, I'm showing you all this stuff, not to like impress you, but to impress upon you the power of podcasting. None of that stuff came because I'm just this magical person. I do think I'm wonderful. I got really high self-esteem at this point. But let me tell you, the podcast success, it has nothing to do with me, but everything to do with the systems that I put into place. And if you've been watching us for the last several weeks, you're seeing the events that we're having. Go through and save those. Send me a message if you want some of the old ones, and I'll make sure I get those to you. But podcasting has definitely changed my life, man. We've been able to interview some of the really coolest people on the planet. David Meltzer, I'll tell you a good story about him. Here in a sec, but he came on the show. We had Chris Do, and everybody on LinkedIn, I know y'all love and know some Chris Do. He came on the show. Evan Carmichael, he was on the show. We had the millionaire consultant, Alan Weiss. If you're a consultant, you definitely have seen his books. And then we had the billionaire, Tim Draper, where I got mentorship for him for an hour straight, and we recorded it on the podcast. And it was, oh my God, it was super, super, super cool. But I want to pay homage to the people that said no to coming on the show. I mean, when I first started, having somebody say no to me was the ultimate prize. Like, I had, Damon John, me and him were talking back and forth. He was going to come on the show. I don't necessarily know what happened with that. Jesse Itzler, I listened to a book of his like back in the day. And, I probably should have reached out when I was listening to the book. And I'll tell you this strategy as we keep going. But he didn't come on the show, and he said he was taking a break or something like that. But then I saw him on the podcast the next day. But I took it as, oh man, let's play a game. How many billionaires can I get to come on the show? And not that billionaires are the where I was aiming. I had my podcast was based on entrepreneurship at the time, and so my lens was, what can I learn from this person? And, if a person has a freaking worth over $4 billion, that they've done it right. And so that's one thing that I want you to start thinking about as we go through the progression of these slides. Who is it in your lane can you reach out to that could add value to not only your audience, but can add value to you, right? So yeah, we've had amazing people come on the show. My show, Leaders Lead the Podcast. If you go ahead, I'll ask you to take a couple screenshots throughout our time together, but I'm going to send you, the folks that stick around, I'm going to send you the notes and any templates that I mentioned. I'll make sure that I send that to you. But I want you to screenshot this so that you can go and you can check out the podcast, Leaders Lead the Podcast. Go to the website, snoop around. I don't care if you copy everything that I have on there, but that stuff that's on the podcast is situated in a way to where newer podcasters can be able to learn from it. They say, if you want to learn how to do something the right and correct way, you got to model somebody that's doing it in the way that you can you only can dream of seeing yourself do it. So the podcast, go and check it out. Leaders Lead the Podcast. Snoop around the website, take some notes, and if you want to make some corrections, go ahead and correct it. But yeah, and subscribe to the show. It'll be really cool. Let me know what you think about the podcast. Is for folks that are overcoming some hardships, whether it's leaders at home, leaders at work. This is not the leader without. This is about the leader within. That's my plug for the podcast. So this presentation or this workshop is for you. This short workshop is for you if you've been thinking about starting a podcast, but the guest process feels intimidating. That means you're like, oh man, I really want to get into a podcast, and I can only really see myself doing it with guests, but how do I get the guests, or what do I do? It just seems so intimidating for you. You already have a show, but you hesitate to reach out to the people that you admire. You're like, oh man, I don't think I'm good enough. You've landed guests, but the interviews didn't go the way that you wanted. So I'm going to show you a new way of interviewing people that works, I would say 100% of the time, unless the person that you're interviewing is an asshole. It's not asshole proof. But this will definitely help you be able to land the guests that you wanted and be able to ask the bigger questions. This is not for you if you're chasing big names just for status. You're like, oh man, it would be really cool to have a podcast just so that I can look like I'm cool. You're already going into this with the wrong mindset. If you want some shortcuts and you don't want to get better at reaching out, get better at interviewing the guests, get better at distributing the podcast website, this is not for you, right? If you just want the shortcuts, I can't not help you because you're not able to do the work that it requires, right? If you believe that the guest is responsible for making your episode great, this is not for you. Let's go ahead and change that right now. You are responsible for making sure that podcast episode or whatever content it is that you're making reach the masses. Again, if you're looking for hacks, I can't help you because this is not a hack. This is just a way to do it, right? So now that we weeded all those folks away, right? Hopefully they're logging off because they're like, man, this is not for me. That's not what I signed up for. You're sitting in two buckets. One of the buckets you're sitting in is you don't have a podcast yet. And the other one is that you already have a show, right? So for the folks that have a podcast, you feel intimidated with reaching out. You assume that you need to be bigger, which is a lie. You can actually start right now. Or you don't know what to say if they will say yes. And I've been through that before where I reach out to somebody just because they're cool, or reach out to them because they can help me. But then they say, yeah, Tony, I'd love to come on. So what do I do? Right? Well, how do I get on the show? I didn't have a Calendly link. I didn't even have dates or what, but I knew that I had them in that moment, and I dropped the ball. So that's for you. You're going to learn how to navigate through all of that. And I'll tell you right now, get a Calendly, write this down, get a Calendly. That way that you're not doing everything manual. You could just send those folks the link. So that it's seamless, right? Because you want things to be easier. You want to work smarter and not harder, right? If you already have a show, you can't land the exciting guests. You're like, oh man, I'm getting people to come on the show, but it's not as exciting as I would want to. If you find yourself clicking your pen during the interviews, this is for you, right? And you personally struggle to go deep with some of the questions. So you're still here. This is for you, right? So you fall into one of those two buckets. So I'll tell y'all, I had this crazy moment. And this is like when everything changed for me. I had been running a podcast for a while, and I was, taking a little break, and I was reading this book called The Introvert's Edge by Matthew Pollard. And I'm listening to this book, and he's telling me all these stories. He's an introvert, just like I am, and just the things that he was saying. I imagine myself being in like there with him throughout this book. So I start reaching out to him, and I'm like, oh my God, I love the way that you explained that. I felt like I was sitting there with you, and I have some more questions, and I sent him another question. I had more questions, sent him another question, and he was responding back to me on LinkedIn, right? So it just kept going and kept going. And then finally I said, okay, I have one more question. I asked the question, and he gracefully answered the question. And then I got this text, this message from him where he said, how about I just come on your podcast? And I was like, oh man, I was like, ha ha, ha ha. That is it, right? That is it. I didn't reach out to him like I had did all the other people that I named before that told me no, and just said, hey buddy, can you come on my podcast? Because it's going to help me, and it's going to help people. I didn't come at it from that selfish angle. I was genuinely curious about his book that he wrote, his work. And let me tell you, anybody that you reach out to and you go from that angle instead of gimme, what's going to happen is they're going to put their walls up, and they're not going to want to talk to you. But if you reach out to them and you're genuinely curious in what it is that they do, they are going to gracefully want to come on the show, right? And I knew that it was gonna happen because I saw him kind of looking through some of my stuff. He had liked it, and I'm just like, man, what is happening? One of my favorite authors at the moment is helping me out. So not only did he come on the show and basically give me some mentorship, but he mentored everybody else. And I had a couple people, they reached out and they said that they bought not only this book, The Introvert's Edge for Selling, but they bought The Introvert's Edge for networking, right? And so it was just one of those moments where it genuinely changed for me. If I want people to come on the show, I have to genuinely be interested in them and not the big names. And I'm going to continue to echo that during our time together. So another day, I'm riding and I'm riding on my bike, and that's often sometimes what I'll do to kind of decompress. I'm riding on my bike, and I'm reading this book, Connected to Greatness by Dave Meltzer. And he says, he was talking about how he was, wearing gold chains, and he was, wearing all these fancy suits, and somebody looked at him and they told him, in order to get to where you need to go, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, you need to be more interested and not more interesting, right? And I heard that come as I'm riding my bike, and I hit the curve. I almost fell off my bike because I literally did what old boy did. I grabbed my chest, and I'm just like, it reaffirmed what I was talking about before when I was talking about reaching out to this guy with the book. It reaffirmed that was here. This was somebody else that was saying the same thing. Somebody that is in a position to where I was trying to get to take my business. I'd love to have a business as a 7-figure business, but this guy was telling me that I needed to be more interested and not more interesting. And you said something. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm so grateful that he said that, and it reinforces. So the next slide, I'll show you exactly when I had him come on the show, and you'll see the camera is grainy. I don't have this like big production studio set up at all at this point. I had none of like the good equipment, and you'll see, but he still gracefully came on the show, and I asked him what I wanted to ask him, and this is what he said. You said something that resonated with me, and the thing was, be more interested than interesting. Can you break that down for the audience?
When I thought of that statement, I thought about, someday Dave Meltzer, he asked over 100 open-ended questions just to figure out how he could be of service or value the world's most interested man. And to that point, the idea of being more interested than interesting is to utilize our curiosity, our creativity, our intuition, our intellect, and our intelligence in order to effectuate adding value. So when I'm more interested, when I'm asking for help, when I'm asking for information, I'm adding value, not just to me for receiving it, but I'm adding value to the person that I'm asking from.
Oh, how cool is that? He told the story a little bit different, but you see where I'm coming from. So it wasn't somebody that tapped him on the shoulder and said it. It was, sounds like it was his subconscious, right? So be more interested than interesting. So if you are that person that's being interesting, you're going to chase attention. I don't know if you've heard people lately say, oh, that person is very performative because, they're talking like this and talking like that. I used to be really performative on the stage because I thought that, the way that I express this was I express it with my hands. But I learned that, my curiosity just needs to grow when I'm on stage, and I no longer do that. Right. And when I'm doing my podcast, instead of me trying to be the cool guy, I'm the guy that's interested in whatever it is that the speaker is saying to me. And that not only builds trust with the person that I'm speaking to, but it builds trust with the audience. I will never pretend that I know it all and I have like everything going on. That is not the case. When you look at my podcast, Leaders Lead, go and listen to it. I encourage you, listen to it. You will see that these questions are genuinely coming from my heart. And a lot of the times, man, I'm fighting back some tears because it's some things that I've been needing to hear for a very, very long time, right? So I'm genuinely interested in the people that I reach out to, genuinely interested in them, right? So to go back on that, right? I know that, society tells us that you have to be bigger first. You have to get the numbers first. You have to earn the credibility first. A lot of people, they tell us that. And I'm going to tell you that they're a lie. Talk to some of my students. They'll tell you they've been able to go after the people that they've admired their whole life and have them on their podcast with just a few simple steps, right? And the first one is being really interested in that person and that person's work. So you don't have to have the status before you get the access, right? You saw in the last video, there I am talking to freaking David Meltzer. He is he works at one of the highest and biggest sports agencies in the world. As a matter of fact, they filmed one of his old bosses, the guy that they did Jerry Maguire after, was actually somebody that he worked with. And when Jerry Maguire went to jail, he was the one that took over the firm. So they made like big box office pictures about that guy. And here I am at that moment on like my 20th episode, and he sat down with me. So it wasn't because I had the status. It was because I was genuinely interested in his work. So I had some realizations, right, when I was going through the process of getting guests on the show. And it felt hard in the beginning. Like I said, I was getting told no, and I decided to turn it into a game. How many no's can I get? How many no's can I get from anybody? Or I just see them and I just like, oh man, they just look so cool. How many no's can I get? And I just got tired of it, right? And I had to look at what some of the false beliefs that I was playing into, and that was that I needed to be bigger. My numbers needed to have to be inflated. I needed to show more proof. How many of you feel like you need to show more proof? And I see this all the time, right? I see it on LinkedIn where instead of that person making content, the content creator, the content is you uploading your degrees or you uploading LinkedIn's freaking certificate that they give you. That is not what's going to convert not only podcast listeners, but that's not going to make people trust you or make people hire you, right? A lot of these companies, they can give a damn the certifications that you have, right? We talk about Tony Robbins. I don't know if whether you like him or not. He's grown to the top of his field in personal development and growth. And the thing that he studies the most, he did not get a certificate in it, right? He studied NLP, that's neuro logistics programming. He failed out. I think he just dropped out and didn't finish, but he didn't get a certificate in it. And now he's able to give other people certificates. So that goes to prove you those certificates, you don't need them. I want to encourage you to follow your heart. You don't need to be bigger. All you need to do is to be you and be true to you, right? I'll tell you, what happens when you have somebody that you have come on your show and you're going after them. And let's say that you're not aligned to that person. You're just reaching out to them because it sounds like it would be a great opportunity just because of their celebrity, just because of their status, right? I made that mistake, reached out to this NFL guy. He came, the NFL star, arguably probably a Hall of Famer. No, definitely a Hall of Famer. He came on the show and oh my God, it was dead. I hated it, every moment of it. I ended up not even throwing the show out or putting the show out because the whole time he would say, okay, well, he would refer back to his book and put a plug in to sell his book. And I'm just like, no, man, let's give the people the information that they came to see. Like, you've overcome some odds. I got these people in the room because I promised that you're going to teach him, and he didn't deliver, right? But that was not necessarily on him. That was on me. I should have did my due diligence. I should have looked at some of the interviews that he's done before. And I should have really been interested in what it was that he's done. And if I would have did what I did after the fact, I went and looked them up and was just like, oh man, how come I didn't know this? Like, how come? Yeah, I'm not interested in this person, right? So I found that the fact that it didn't align after I had already wasted my time and wasted his time and wasted the listener's time. So when you're getting folks and you're trying to get them to come on your show, you want to really care about them. You want to really care about their story, right? And there has to be some kind of connection or a bridge so that they would want to care about your story and want to invest in it. I reached out to Chris Do, and I was just like, hey man, I got a story to tell you, right? I always start with a story. I got a story to tell you. My son, he was telling me about this guy multiple years ago. My son is really creative with the camera, does some really cool editing stuff. He's a director. And, but years ago, and he's 16, he's telling me about this guy named Chris Do. And, I never really, looked them up. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Watch a couple of videos. But then I was trying to figure out I was having some issues with the creativity side and also the entrepreneur side. I was having issues with lining them up, and I ran across one of his videos, and I'm like, oh man, this is it. This is the missing piece for not only me, but my son. I reached out to my son. I was like, look, this guy is so cool. You should check out this video specifically. And he goes, Dad, this is the guy that I told you about many years ago. And so we just had that full circle moment in this. And it was just such a beautiful thing. And I'm sure all of y'all know who Chris Do is because people love him on LinkedIn. But man, it was just this beautiful moment. And I told Chris this, and he said, for sure, I'll come on. I said, and also I want my son to come on in. And that was what did it. And then he actually told me that, I get hundreds of these a month, and I don't do all of them, but just the fact of that story that you told me and the fact that you and your son wanted to interview me, that's why I'm coming on the show. So it was a story, and it wasn't done in anything facetious, but it was done with love and genuine curiosity and telling the story. So So what you can get from this is you don't have to necessarily chase the people or chase the stories. You just got to be interested in what it is that you're interested in and find the industry leaders and ask them to come on your show. Sometimes it'll happen organically, and sometimes it won't. Right. So the second realization that I had, and hopefully y'all are taking notes, taking some screenshots. Stick around with me, and I'll send you everything that I have here. But the wrong guest, like the person that I told you about that came on the show and it felt flat, and I kept watching my watch to see if I could get out of there or not. But the wrong guest, impressive, but they're not aligned to what it is that you do. They got basically a big name. They've done some accolades, but it don't necessarily fit you. The wrong guess, surface questions. You're going to ask them. You're not really going to be really curious, so you're going to ask some questions about their bio. It's going to be forced, and you're going to be like me. The episode will never air unless you're just putting it out there just for the sake of putting it out there. But the right guess, you're going to have genuine interest in them, and you're going to need real answers from them, and questions that you really care about, things that make you emotional, things that pull you on and into the resilience side, but the hard stuff, right? And then you'll get to the point where you look at this picture, they're holding a microphone, there's a heart in between them because something special has happened. And that's what you should be aiming to create. You should be aiming to create that something special. Okay. So the four questions that in screenshot this, or take a picture of it, 4 questions that never let an interview go flat. And I'll tell you, I got this from my counseling program. I'm just sitting in counseling, and they're like, "Oh, Tony, you're asking a lot of close-ended questions, and all you're going to get is yes or no." So that's what a close-ended question is yes or no. How are you having a great day today? Yes. Instead of, oh, I'm curious. How's your day going? Right. Getting them to really open up and ask you the question and answer the question. That way you're not sitting there with an egg on your face. Right. And you'll do it. You'll still do it sometimes. And you just have to bring yourself back. If you find yourself asking a close, just ask another question just to kind of follow on, right? But some of the top 4 questions that I never go wrong with is what were you feeling in that moment, right? They're telling a story, and maybe there's a natural pause, or they just got done telling a story. What were you feeling in that moment when you found out that you had been adopted and nobody told you? Mm-hmm. What were you feeling? Right. That's going to have them to go deep. And I guarantee you, there's not a lot of people that's going to ask them that question. What did it cost you personally? A lot of people, when they're talking about businesses or they're talking about family structures failing, the thing that brought them up the most, they don't go personally. They say it's all external, but you bring them back to where it's internal, and things start changing, right? Things are changing. And that's when you start getting the transformation stories. What changed in you after that? A lot of people will ask questions, and they'll keep them in this forever going loop of the pain and the trauma. But you have to, the people that are listening to your show, they want to know, what changed in you after, so that it could be aspirational, so that they can aspire to get to that point that you ended up going to, right? And this is probably, I would say, maybe 3/4 into the interview. That's where you start asking them that question. And then the 4th question that will never let your interview go flat is, what do most people misunderstand about this part of your story, right? And so you're getting more curious, and you're digging a little bit deeper, and you'll hear, wow, that's a really good question, because they're trying to really think. And then that layer will start to, if it's not shedded already, it'll really come off. And they'll really start telling you about their pain and what they've personally went through. So I'm sure you can guess, all of these questions, they have a commonality. And the thing that's so common about it is that they're going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, right? All right. So another case study. Me and my wife were reading this book about estrangement, and it's called This Is You. I read the book the first time by myself. No, the first 2 times by myself. And then I told my wife, man, there's some exercises in this book. We should read it together. And so we started reading this book together, and I'm like, man, I'm going to send her a message. I'm going to reach out to her and send her a message. And, within freaking 5 hours, she sent me a message back. So I said, I feel like you were speaking to my soul. Can you come on my show? My audience need this. And this was after the exchange, the exchange that we were already having. And she said, yes, I would love to. And she came on the show, and let me tell you, that show was probably one of the best shows that I have ever had. And depending on, it should be out. It should be out actually tomorrow. But man, this book, it changed my life, right? And I have more questions. I wanted a follow-up. I genuinely was curious, and I asked these questions. If you go and you look at that interview, maybe I didn't ask the questions word for word, but she was answering these questions based off of the specific questions that I had for her, right? So it works. It works every single time. So by now, you got the questions. Hopefully you screenshotted that, and that the person that you're seeking after, you have to be genuinely interested in them. And one thing that I want to change, the thinking around this, and it took me a while to get the big name. It doesn't mean impact. Just because you have a big name to come on your show, it does not mean that you're going to have impact. I told you that, I had this guy come on the show. He's sat down with some world leaders, and he's done some really incredible things, has one of the largest Bitcoin portfolios in the world. I mean, this guy is freaking phenomenal. He lended, I'm not going to say his name. It starts with the E, ends with the M, money for our car company. Like, he was just an incredible freaking guy. Like, he's been in all these different rooms, but that podcast, it wasn't the most downloaded podcast that I had. The podcast episode that's the most downloaded is the one with the shittiest audio when I'm riding in my truck, crying with the freaking the water freaking dripping, and you can hear it in the background. So it's not the freaking big resume that does it, right? It has to be alignment, there has to be depth, and there has to be a distribution plan. So think about that. Once you get those people, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with that podcast episode? Is it a dud? Yeah. Or is it going to be successful? And only you can determine that, not the person. They can share it on, their social or whatever, but you have to have a plan in order to freaking get that ball up the hill, the ball of impact. So screenshot this too. This is where the impact comes from as far as a distribution strategy for your podcast episode after it's already aired. You want to display it on your website. That should be your freaking home base. And if you are working with somebody, not everybody's going to be open to this, but I often tell them, hey, yeah, if you want to check out a way to put this in a prominent location on your website, I can certainly help you figure that out and send you a code to do that, right? Because every time somebody come on their website, they're going to see that podcast episode, and the downloads are going to continue to go up and up and up and up and up. If You have a mailing list. That means that you own the audience. This LinkedIn or wherever you're watching this, I do not own the audience, but I own my email list. Those emails that those folks have trusted me with, I own that, right? And the way that I get the emails is from my website, or maybe I send them a podcast episode to where they got to put in their email address, and then I send it to them, right? Your newsletter, your podcast episodes should be appearing on your newsletters. If it's not, you're doing something freaking wrong, right? And not only your newsletters, but the person that's coming on your podcast. No longer do I let anybody come on my podcast if I haven't had this conversation with them. The website, I'm not really pushing that hard, but their email list, and then their newsletter, right? Those are the top tier places, not social media. So social media will amplify it, but it's definitely not the infrastructure. Social media is low hanging fruit, and sometimes, like I've said before, the fruit that's hanging the lowest could actually be the most rotten fruit, because social media comes and freaking goes. You're just as good as your last post. And your last post that comes just as quick as it goes, just as quick as it came, right? So you can easily be spun out of that algorithm. So, think about ways that you can direct the introductions to your community, like the podcast episode. How can I get this into a community of real estate brokers that I feel like can benefit from listening to this podcast episode where I'm talking about burnout for real estate agents? Okay, so I'm going to go to a group and I'm going to introduce myself to them with that product. And as the relationship continues to go, I'm going to keep giving it to that group, right? And that's what make the downloads go up. That's what make the community go bigger. Colleges and institutions. This is a really good one. I've inserted my podcast early into the colleges that I was going throughout the way. I would turn in a project about it would do an episode. That was kind of how I did my homework. I would give it to the teacher, and I've had several teachers say, "Hey, do you mind if I make this a part of my curriculum?" You could do the same. Some of your local professors, people that in the community, or just do a search and say, "I got this podcast episode. I know you teach XYZ. This podcast episode can be an aid to your students." Watch your downloads go up. Watch your community go up. Strategic partnerships. I started this off by talking about some of the strategic partners that I've had, right? That's, who can you give your podcast, not just the episodes, but the podcast as a whole? Who can you give that thing to as a gift to where y'all can help each other? And I'm not talking about just one person. I'm talking about organizations. If you have a podcast that's about the Boys and Girls Club, then, or a podcast that can fit the Boys and Girls Club because that's your demographic, is for teens or whatever, right? How can you partner with them, right? And then paid distribution. This is like ads and stuff like that. That's definitely a way that you can amplify your podcast, but it has to be aligned. And if you're on LinkedIn and you have a podcast, I'm fairly certain that you've been approached by some of these folks that are soliciting them giving you podcast downloads. Do not do it. Not only will it ruin your show and your reputation, but it's going to ruin like your effort. I know people that have done that, and then right after they did that, they felt horrible about it, because it's not only if it's cheating, but it don't even work doing it. So it's not worth you messing up your ratings, because you're going to have to continue to pay to keep it high, 6,000 downloads, however much that they're promising you. You're going to continue to have to do that. And I don't want that. I don't want that for you. Right. And if those organizations like the podcasting folks, they find out that you are cheating, or you find out that it's inflated, they have every right to disconnect your show from their brand. So think about that. Okay. So I know that you're thinking, what if I'm not ready? What if I don't have what it takes? What if I build the podcast and nobody comes on the show? What if I commit or fail publicly? I want to tell you right now that you should be thinking about this kind of stuff. You should. But, what if it works? What if it's successful? What if you do an amazing job? What if you have the impact on folks that really can make a difference in the lives of other people? I think your embarrassment, I think it's worth it. I think you would agree, right? So, we're getting close to the end, and then we'll get to our questions here in a minute. But some things that I want y'all to be thinking about, your podcast episode, not only your podcast episodes, but your podcast as a whole. If you're doing it right, it should be your sales agent. You should own your distribution, audience borrowing. It's able to bring you that, where you borrow audiences. It's backing you. Organizations are backing you. You're getting free mentors. I sit down with some of the most brilliant people on the face of the earth, and I can call them my mentors. Text messages. It would blow your mind, the folks that you can have access to. You can use it as a networking engine, authority builder, because you're being seen with these experts, a content engine, and a PR agent. I mean, who wouldn't? I don't know why there isn't more people getting into the podcast game, right? So, I mean, that's it. If you're listening to this, that part is it. But I want to ask you a question, right? If you know that podcasting is the answer, these are my folks that have a podcast or don't have a podcast and need some help with this. Like, how much longer are you going to wait? Are you going to continue to freaking go about it your way, continue to go uphill when you can be going downhill and it could be easy for you? If you're going about that way, I want to encourage you. It doesn't have to be hard, right? It doesn't have to be hard. You can get some help. Here's some steps. You should be somewhere along these freaking 9 circles in the evolution of podcasting. If you go ahead and take a screenshot of that, I believe that will be helpful for you, just to know where you're at and know where you're going. If you are interested in having me work through the purpose alignment, the structure building, and the medium determination, hey, I will even give you equipment determination. I would love to meet with you for 90 minutes where we work on not only getting your platform aligned, but creating the message and you using your voice, me helping you like really clarify that for you and giving you your next 3 moves in podcasting. So you can take a screenshot of this, or if depending on where you're watching it, maybe you can tap the screen. I'll make sure that I put a link here down in the comment section, but schedule a 90-minute voice message platform session with me. You'll walk away with pretty much a full business plan on the direction that you can take your podcast so that it could be successful, not only to get big names to come on your podcast, not only for you to be able to ask the questions that go deep, but for you to monetize and profit off of your podcast so that you can get paid for using your voice. That is what this blueprint session is going to do for you. So to clarify this, in 90 minutes, we're going to clarify your voice, your story. We're going to design the blueprint for your platform, and I'm going to give you the next 3 moves for your show. So the price of this is $225. And instead of an hour, I'll give you a full 90 minutes. And this is going to help you avoid wasting money on gear, courses, and all the coursework. And I'm going to assist you in moving from where a lot of people are at right now to instead of someday I'm going to do it. I'm going to move you to where, okay, this is when my podcast is going to launch. I'm going to be squared away and we're going to make it work. So again, go ahead and check the link in the comment section and scan this for your 90-minute voice message platform session. and I will see you soon. Not soon. I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna see you right now. What am I talking about? Let me know. Let me know before I go ahead and I start sharing these testimonies. Go ahead and let me know your questions, and I'll make sure that we get to them in the question and answer period.